Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
The crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
David Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the only football podcast tonight. We're talking divisional round playoffs. We've got 4 games spread out between Saturday and Sunday. Kyler going to go through each game and give you our predictions for each winner. Spoiler alert, there might be some surprises. We're also going to do our top technically 8 for our playoff teams. So we're going to do that. And of course, we're going to end it off with the Chives with Kyle. Oh, let's get it. America is football.
America is football. Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass. The moment in time. I don't give a damn. Oh my god.
No.
You loved it.
30-27. Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30-20. Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to divisional round.
Let's go.
Playoffs. I mean, we are here. We have 4 games, 8 teams, and the Super Bowl will be one of these, 2 of these 8 teams. Now, for the AFC, same as NFC, 4 remaining. I think for the AFC, 3 teams would not be shocking if they made it to the Super Bowl. For the NFC, I think it's a little bit more like 2 teams would be shocking. 2 teams wouldn't be. So the AFC, I guess there is more up in the air than the NFC, or it feels that way. But the one team that would be shocking if they made it to the Super Bowl out of the AFC would be the Houston Texans. And they actually give yourself a pat on the back because they won their game last week. And I just did not see that coming. I did not. And you really got to give Houston a lot of credit for the way they played in that game. I'm not really sure what happened. There was a common theme last week with the Broncos, the Chargers, I can't even say the Packers because there was like 13 people that got hurt in that game. That was just hard to watch. Like by the end of it, you were just like, oh my God, come on, just get them out of here. I mean, people were just falling left and right, but the Chargers and the Broncos definitely just did not play their best football last week. And there's a lot of fan bases just struggling with, I was just telling you, the finality of your season ending just like that. I mean, you're going down this road and you got this goal to get to the Super Bowl, and then in 3.5 hours it's all over, and it's hard done. It's hard to just be like, okay, well, next year. There is a painful process involved, and there's a lot of teams going through that this week. The Houston Texans bought themselves one more week of avoiding that painful road, and you look at this game and you wonder, I mean, the Chiefs getting 8.5 points seems a little generous. I mean, I understand it's Kansas City. I mean, I'm just looking here at the predictions, and there's everybody taking the Chiefs, and I get it. But we did mention that the Chiefs feel like the worst 15-2 team of all time, and the Texans, they got to be feeling kind of good about themselves after
Mm-hmm.
that win. And
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder, does Houston have a potential upset on the table on Saturday, tomorrow at 4:30
Mm-hmm.
p.m. Eastern time? I mean, is it possible? CJ Stroud has now won 2 playoff games in his first 2 seasons. The defense for Houston stood out to me more than anything last week. And I
Yeah.
felt like, man, if their defense can play like that, because Mahomes in this offense, they don't score a bunch of points. So I'm
Yeah.
looking at a low scoring game if you can get that out of the defense. I'm really thinking this could be a 20-23. But for me personally, the Kansas City Chiefs have been winning close games all season long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they're going to win by 8.5. I would gladly take the Texans plus 8.5, but I do expect at the very end of the game for the Chiefs to do what they have been doing all season long. It's their calling card, a field goal to end the game. I just feel like that's probably how this goes.
Yeah, and 8.5 points, like you said, I think that's a bettor's dream right there with the way the Texans defense played last week. Like you're looking at that, and just like you said, you're like, I am taking those points for the Texans, 100%. I'm taking that, and it's a good bet to make, to take, because yeah, their defense, man, was so damn good last week, and the stat that popped out at me last week. Justin Herbert for the regular season had 3 interceptions. They had 4 interceptions in that wild card game off of Justin
Yeah.
Herbert. He surpassed his regular season total, which was crazy to think about. And really, as I'm kind of thinking about it now, I didn't even realize Justin Herbert was not turning the ball over through the air that little, so little during the regular season, that
His
when that's that.
receivers dropped the ball a couple times. I mean, but Herbert threw
Yeah,
2. I saw 2 bad interceptions. So this is not a
same.
pass. I'm just saying I don't know if the number is a little worse than Herbert played. I mean, he threw 2 bad interceptions, but there was also 2 that just bounced off the hands of the
Yep.
receivers and ended up being picked.
I forget who the tight end was for the Chargers, but he literally, it looked like he had open palms trying to catch that and just bounced right off.
He dropped I think it was like a 3rd and 15, and it would have converted, and he dropped a ball earlier in that game, and then that one led to a pick 6, and it's just like, dude, come on, man.
100%. And this isn't I'm not trying to put all the blame on Herbert either, because you're right. It was a lot of it, or at least a few of them, were on the receivers themselves. Like the one I'm talking about, it bounced off his hands into the defender's hands. And I think that's the one that went for the pick 6. And
Yeah.
in my head, I'm like, wow, there it goes again, right? Another interception. And Nick put playoff Justin Herbert happened. Justin Herbert has not had a lot of good luck in the playoffs, and that last week was definitely one of them. We got to remember the Jacksonville Jaguars game a couple years ago where the Jags came back in like tremendous fashion. But let's focus in on the divisional round with the Texans. Again, their defense was so good. Joe Mixon early on, I think he had fumbled the ball, and he came, he came back from that in a very good way. I mean, he had like a 30-yard run into a touchdown. He was doing everything to protect the ball. He was running like a maniac. CJ Stroud played really well. And I remember when I picked the Texans, I was like, I think it's CJ Stroud that kind of, makes this the game that wins the game for the Texans. And in reality, it was the defense that kind of shut the Chargers down. Like they shut everything down. They shut the run down. They shut the pass down. They weren't letting anything happen for the Chargers. So that's why, that's why they moved on. In my mind, I was like, I don't know, man. I think the Texans are a little bit better, and they showed it in the playoffs. So with the Chiefs, they've had a lot of low scoring games, like you said. When in the Mahomes era, this is a stat I'm picking off of NFL.com. Chiefs are 4-0 during the divisional round, averaging almost 33 points per game. Now, those offenses were a little bit different, and it's probably that high because of those first two playoffs that the Chiefs went through, where they were scoring a ton of points, and the offense was like at its peak in terms of like the roster that they have right now with Kelsey, with Mahomes, and so on. And I am going to agree with you. I don't think it's going to go past 30 points. This may be a 30-27 game, a 30-28 game. This is going to be something very, very close. And the Chiefs, we got to remember, are coming off of a 24-day rest. So this is always a conversation going into the divisional rounds, rest versus rust, right? Like how is it going to affect them? I think the Chiefs have had more than enough time to game plan. Obviously, for the Texans, they saw the game last week. They know what they've got to do. The offense kind of knows when to click and when to kind of turn it on. But what I saw from the Texans defense last week was remarkable. Kyle, I'm taking the Texans to upset the Chiefs and take the dub into the AFC Championship game. Wow. I know it's controversial. This is kind of a hot take even for me. Like usually I'm like, yeah, give me the Chiefs, but that defense last week and what CJ Stroud and Mixon and what all those guys were able to show, especially Nico Collins. Like Nico Collins caught everything that was going in his way. It just looked really, really good. I'm picking the Texans to upset the Chiefs in the divisional round.
Yeah, that is very bold. And I mean, man, I don't see it happening, but I also didn't see the Chargers losing last week. I do think
losing bad.
I do think the Chargers played bad. And I feel like a lot of times we overinflate teams when they win and we underinflate them. I don't know if that's a word. When they lose, we're like, sell the stock. And when we win, we're like, I can't buy enough of this. The only problem I'm going to have is that I didn't buy more.
All right,
look,
Leo.
I'm not saying that the Texans have no shot. It's just you bring up the rest thing, and I do want to talk about that. I can't look it up right now, but one of the key indicators to that I'm just making this up right now, but I think it's true. One of the key indicators of whether a team is going to benefit from extra rest or if it's going to hurt them is what the team looks like week 1 every year. Because think about it. You've never had more rest than week 1. I mean, week 1 is typically the first game you've played in for the Chiefs, about 5.5, 6 months, whatever. But other teams, 8-9 months. It's like the Chiefs, though, and Andy Reid specifically, are one of the best September teams in football. Offensive coaches tend to be better in September because they've had all season to scheme stuff up. And I would expect that from the Chiefs. I would expect Patrick Mahomes to not. I mean, at this point in his career, like, we know that Mahomes is good enough to be able to handle the rest without mentally checking out or any weirdness. I mean, the Chiefs are 2 wins away from winning the Super Bowl and being the first team in NFL history to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. And what that means for Mahomes on a personal level is that he would become the GOAT before he turns 30. Yeah. Now that would, I believe he's 29.
No, he's 28, I think.
28. Yeah. So for somebody to become the GOAT before turning 30, and look, there's still going to be people out there that are going to say, no, it's Tom and whatever. Those people are going to die on that hill no matter what. But we all know the truth. And the truth is, if Mahomes can pull this off, we're talking about a guy that's undefeated in the divisional round since taking over. We're talking about a guy whose floor has been losing the AFC Championship game, and somebody that's only done that twice in his career, and all the other ones besides one have been a Super Bowl win. I mean, it's like uncomparable. Like Tom Brady is the only guy you can compare it to, But even Tom Brady, it wasn't until later in his career that he was going to the Super Bowl every single year. I think it was 2000. It was 2017, 2018, and 2019. I think he went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, where it was a consistent thing. Yeah.
And then when it happened earlier in his career, 2001 and 2002, I think, somewhere around there. No, that was the Bucks and the Raiders. I think it was like 2003 maybe when they played the Eagles.
2002, 2004, 2005.
They played the Panthers.
Yeah, 2004 was the Panthers. 2005 was the Eagles. Yeah, or vice versa. I forget who they beat in
Panthers
2002.
First, because the Panthers went only 1 year after entering the NFL, and they changed the rules because they thought Carolina the success was too fast, so they pulled back the draft picks. That changed how the NFL incorporated expansion teams and the amount of draft picks and cap money that they give them and stuff like that. So it was the Panthers first. I remember that. That's the Super Bowl where JT pulled the bra off of at the end of this show.
Yeah.
That was that Super Bowl. That's the only thing I remember about it. And I remember it being a field goal to win the game. My point is like Tom Brady went to back-to-back Super Bowls. But then after 2000 and 2005, it was like he would go to one and then he would miss one and then go to one and miss one, go to one. And it, so on and so forth until it was 2015. It was later in his career. I think it was Atlanta, the Rams, then the Bucks. It was like he went on this, like, I go to the Super Bowl every single year. He didn't win it every single year, but he at least went. And like Patrick Mahomes is going to do that right now.
Yeah.
It just feels like Mahomes' prime. Whenever you can start your career as fast as Mahomes did, his prime might be the longest prime, because we even say Tom Brady benefited from defense the first couple of years. When Mahomes first got in the league, arguably he was better than he is now. So, I mean, we're talking about a guy whose prime might last 15 years. This is just uncharted territory. I don't expect the Chiefs to come out and be slow. They know what's at stake, and I think they're going to be ready. It's a tall task for the Texans, who, just like last year, won a playoff game. They felt really good about themselves going into Baltimore, but ultimately there are teams just on another tier, and I think the Chiefs are one of them. But I like the pick. I like the boldness of it. But playoff Mahomes is like a different type of player than the regular season. It's kind of like they're just on cruise control, and then once the postseason starts, then they're in manual, and they're like, okay, turn that shit off, let's go. And I'm wondering, are they going to be able to flip that switch in what might be the most consequential season in Mahomes' career this year?
Yeah, 100% agree. And the thing, too, is the Texans' biggest issue, and you saw it in the Chargers game, because of their defense, they were able to win this game. We got to look at that. But their first 5 possessions were 3 punts, an interception, and a fumble. I believe it was fumble, 3 punts, and an interception. Yeah, those were their first 5 possessions. You can't start the game like that on offense against the Chiefs, because as good as your defense is, that Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy, DeAndre Hopkins, Isaiah Pacheco offense with Andy Reid calling the shots is going to be better. So there's got to be that, like, okay, defense is out there, do your best, contain, and then when the offense is out there, you guys got to move the ball, get first down. So I completely agree. It's going to be a tall task regardless if it's the Texans' defensive side of the ball or the offensive side of the ball. They just can't start those first 5 possessions with 3 punts and 2 turnovers, because at that point, I mean, first game, the last time they played in the divisional round, they were down, 28-0, 24-0? And then the Chiefs in the second quarter scored 28 points to go into halftime leading that game. And then it was like 51-31. They held them to a field goal after that. So obviously different time for the Texans, different team. But the Chiefs, it's the same old Chiefs. So we got to make sure, or sorry, they got to make sure. I'm talking like they're my team. They have to make sure to start off productive, fast but productive. Most importantly.
Well, whenever you pick an underdog, they kind of are your team for the week.
Yeah,
So
fair, fair.
yeah, Andy Reid, the one thing, record of 32-7 after a bye. That is just absolutely ridiculous.
Wow,
And that kind of
insane.
goes to what I was saying about extra rest is a good thing for Andy Reid. We'll see if it is tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern time. I was just talking to my there's one trainer at my gym and he loves football. He's a Cowboys fan, and we always like kind of just like make eye contact after the thing, and then we're like we do these like 2-minute powwows where we just data dump football stuff. You know, it
Yeah,
could be fantasy football or what do you think
yeah.
this weekend, and then that's it. This one that just took place, I said I pretty much like I told him, and we'll get to the Ravens game, but I said that one could go either way. I have no clue.
Yeah.
And then I said the Washington Commanders and Lions game. I said I feel like the Lions, it's their year. I do. I feel like it's the Lions' year to go to the Super Bowl. But I feel something else about this game, and you get these gut feelings sometimes, and there's like I haven't like, oh, let me find some analytics to back it up. A gut feeling sometimes is just like, hey, it's like going for it on 4th and 5. You know, it's just like, I feel
Yeah.
like we will get it. I don't know why. I feel like, I don't know if the Commanders will win this. I feel like they could, and my gut's telling me that this is going to be a better game than people think. One thing about the Commanders is that they've played down to their opponents, which I pointed out last week. The
Yeah.
other thing is they play up to their opponents as well. The Lions are 9.5-point favorites. I mean, these spreads, man, so far, like, give me the other team with the points because
Yeah.
I just don't know. I mean, the Lions come into this game and it's like they beat the Vikings really good. One of the people predicted this game, said the Lions bring serious momentum into this. I feel like anytime you have a bye week, you lose that momentum a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
that Vikings-Lions game feels like so long ago, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm feeling that way about it. I feel like the Lions are going to come out, but what I think is going to make up for the bye week, because this is no Andy Reid, right? This is a younger team, and it's a quarterback that I feel confident in and stuff, but this isn't Andy Reid and Mahomes. So let's like separate the two teams for a second and just say the Lions' home field advantage is what's going to get them ready for this game. And plus Dan Campbell, man, he has been just the same guy every single week. You look at those victory locker room speeches throughout the season, and he's every single week, he's like one game at a time. And that's like the motto of this team. Like the Lions they don't overlook anybody. That's why they're 15-2. They never got caught in a trap game because they were ready for every opponent. And when they got beat in a close game. It wasn't because they didn't show up. I mean, the Lions are the NFC's best team, and they're, even with all the injuries, like you said, the Lions just found a way to the next man up mentality. It just shows the depth of the team. Credit to the people, the scouting staff, the training staff, player development personnel. Everything on the Lions right now is working. And usually when that happens, you lose all of them and you get a bunch of compensation picks in the draft because you lose all your coordinators. And that typically happens after a Super Bowl victory. That's where the Lions are at right now when you look at Ben Johnson and even the defensive coordinators interviewing. I mean, the Lions are in this position because they're going to go to the big one, buddy. Like they're going to the big game. And I do think this is going to be a good one, but there's absolutely no way that I'm going to pick against the Lions because it was always the Lions' year. I mean, it was week one. Honestly, since they blew that game against the 49ers, the Lions were going to the Super Bowl. That was it. There was nothing that was going to change my mind, and there's nothing that will change my mind about it. The Lions are going to the Super Bowl. We're just trying to figure out who they're going to play.
Yeah, this game has blowout to me. Like I get you want the points. I get that the points look good, and in this case, I don't know. I think if I'm betting, I'm taking the Lions minus what is it, 8.5?
It's at 10.
Yeah, I'm taking the Lions
9.5.
10, 9.5, 10, whatever the points may be, double digits or not. In my opinion, this is going to be a blowout, man. This to me, like, no disrespect to the Commanders and what they've done this year. The only thing that scares me is you mentioned how the Commanders actually play up to their opponents, right? We've seen close losses to a lot of teams. When even like mediocre teams, and I'm going to put my Bears in there, right? Like, what happened? It was a Hail Mary that won him the game, sure, but the play before that Hail Mary was a 30-yard sideline throw to a receiver that got them in range for that Hail Mary. So the Commanders are very, very good come clutch time, come time where they have to get down the field, they have to make a play. That's the only thing that's kind of scary about this game is like, fuck, maybe the Commanders, fourth quarter, 3 minutes left, they're down 7, they go down there and tie it. All of a sudden, it's an overtime divisional round game. The Lions, they don't want that. They kind of want to. It's not that they're looking ahead, but they want to be able to beat them at home and move on. This is going to be a tough one, and again, these are the reasons I'm going blowout. The Commanders' pass defense has been a little bit better, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta, that's going to be a tall fucking task for Sanders still, for Lattimore, all these guys in the secondary. The rushing defense for the Commanders has led up over 132 yards per game, and I believe that was the most in the NFL. The Lions have 2 running backs who went for over 1,000 scrimmage yards. David Montgomery rushed for almost 800 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs had over 1,000 yards rushing. They each had 10 touchdowns plus each. Like this is, to me, this is a slaughter because of all these things. Jared Goff, third thing, he plays lights out. The defense, Anzalone, he came back and played against the Vikings, and we saw what that defense was able to do against that Vikings offense, which was very damn good up until week 18 in the wild card round. So Anzalone playing defense, Green Dot, their cornerbacks, their players at the front. In my opinion, man, like I said, this is going to be a blowout and the Lions come out on top, but Jaden Daniels is Jaden Daniels, and he's going to do Jaden Daniels things. He beat Baker in a pretty damn good Tampa team last week. But the numbers speak for themselves. They're going to be at home. It is going to be loud. It is kind of what you're saying, inevitable for them to move on to the Super Bowl, and I've kind of thought that for a while too. I'm going Lions. I'm going to go Lions 31, Commanders 17.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like Lions 30, Commanders 22. One thing that's worth bringing up, at least, the Commanders' passing defense is ranked 3rd in the NFL. Now, the run defense hasn't been great, but it was good enough last week against Bucky Irving and Rashad White. So they can't, but this is a different beast. So I think the Lions are going to run the ball, and I think they're going to have success with it. But I think that's going to lower the amount of points that we're going to see. And for what it's worth as well, Dan Quinn, when he was a defensive coordinator with the Cowboys, Jared Goff's 0-2 against Dan Quinn. And in those games as well, against Dan Quinn, Goff, not only is he 0-2, but he only has 1 touchdown and 6 giveaways. in those games.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
I'm with you on like this is the Lions' year and all that. And look, if this does turn into a blowout, not going to be shocked because the Lions
Mhm.
have blown out a ton of really good teams.
Yeah.
I don't think it does, but this year's playoffs has just like I've been wrong about everything. It feels like so like I don't know if like this week I'm gonna be right or just like I'm just gonna be wrong this year. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I mean I feel like as long as I keep picking Detroit and then I'll be right about something at least.
Yeah, the Commanders and the Rams, which we'll talk about here in a bit, those were my only losses last week for the wild card round. I was like, God damn it, Jane Daniels is gonna do it. He's gonna win his first playoff game of the quarterback rookie class this year, and they did that. And then the Rams just
Yeah,
destroyed the Vikings, which was a crazy game.
I got that
Another
one right.
cool, yeah, the facts. Yeah, you did. And another cool stat about this game here is Lions and Commanders, Dan Quinn and Dan Campbell, the two Dans, Dan versus Dan, they each had so the Lions had 22 fourth down conversions attempts. The Commanders had 20. They were the only two out of the five teams that had more than 20 attempts to have a winning percentage. So they like to go for it on fourth down. So we might see that a lot. And obviously, it's a win or go home game. You would expect that. But I just thought I'd throw that in there because it's kind of a fun stat to kind of look at and be like, wow, these guys draw up good plays or at least, as head coaches, have good decision making in terms of trusting their offensive coordinator to draw up good plays to get a first down on fourth.
Yeah, and I think that's like Jaden Daniels. I mean, like he's going to do his thing. And like as a head coach, whenever you have a quarterback that has the ability to make plays with his legs and do designed runs, I think you feel a lot more confident on 4th and 3 or 4th and 2 because you could either run the ball, but if they load the box, then you feel really good about just rolling Jaden out because
Yeah.
he can buy enough time for the receivers to get somewhat open. Like same thing with Lamar. There are a couple quarterbacks in the league, Lamar and Jaden stand out where you feel like unusually doomed when it's 4th down and they're going for it if you're playing against them.
Yeah, throw Josh Allen in there too, and that's exactly
Yeah.
what Jaden did against the Bucks last week. They needed a stop on 3rd down or 4th down. Jaden rolled right and got the first down and won the game.
And that's where they get that confidence to keep doing it.
Yeah.
All right, the Rams. The Rams going into Philly. Did you see that fan that was like heckling that Packer fan?
I saw it and I heard there was a twist about that a little bit. Yeah.
What was the twist? I mean,
So the twist was that the Packers guy, because it was a couple, the Eagles fan called the female Packers fan a cunt, but the guy is a YouTuber or some sort of like he has a following on social media, whether that be YouTube, TikTok, whatever. He had a GoFundMe to go to that game, which he lives, I think, in the state. He's like literally a drive away from that game. And the GoFundMe, I believe, and this is kind of what I heard off the podcast that I listened to because they dove a little deeper into it. He set up the GoFundMe to go and heckle and try to what's the word? Not harass, but when you're bait. Yes, the Eagles fans. So there is the only innocent person in this situation that in which you're talking about is the girl Packer fan because one, the Eagles fan, drunk piece of shit, is now banned from the Lincoln Financial Field. But the Packers fan guy, this was his whole point of going because he actually, I think, had edited the video to make it look like the drunk Eagles fan was just heckling his girl for no reason, when in fact some of that video shows him actually talking shit and egging him on and trying to be an instigator about the whole situation. So I heard about it at first and I was like, drunk Eagles fans, motherfuckers. And then they dove a little bit deeper and then it all
Yeah,
came out to light.
I've been, I mean, even this year, like going to the Bengals stadium, like there's like, John back and forth, but at the end of the day, like it was all respectful, and like there's
Mm-hmm.
really no situation that could happen where I would talk to somebody's girlfriend or wife like that. I just would never
Mm-hmm.
do that. Like there's nothing
Agreed.
that
Yeah.
someone could do to me
Yep.
where that would come out of my mouth. It's the same
Yep.
thing with like other derogatory words that I don't use. I mean, it's like I'm not saying that the Packer fan's not wrong as well, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
like that guy's a total piece of shit for talking to another woman like that. It's
Yeah.
just not cool. But I'm glad. I heard he lost his job too. I'm like, imagine being
I heard
fired
that too.
from your job. Your
Yeah.
team fires you. Your favorite
Mm-hmm.
team fires you. I guess that guy has a wife too. Maybe I don't know if she's gonna like that. Um,
Yeah. And a
it's just
daughter
like,
too.
dude, the internet's a son of a bitch if you're not
Oh
a good
yeah.
person.
Oh yeah.
um, but this is going to be another home game for the Eagles, and I'm sure there's some Ram fans that have seen these videos that are going to be treading lightly going into here, like, oh my God, should we even go? Um, it's a far flight, and the one thing about the Rams that I like their head coach better, and I'm kind of digging Matthew Stafford right now.
Ooh, yeah.
There's there is something that is brewing. Matthew Stafford has been wanting to retire for a couple years, and I do believe that. When you look at the injuries that guy has had through the
Yeah.
duration of his career, I really do feel like his wife and himself and his kids all want him to retire, and I
Mm-hmm.
do think he's like, I really just think we could win one more Super Bowl. And I
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of seasons in Detroit, and then my first year with the Rams, I win a Super Bowl, and I got a taste of it. And it would be cool to just get one more like
Yeah.
Peyton did.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Broncos won the Super Bowl in Peyton's last year, it was kind of like the way the Rams are right now. I mean, they didn't have the defense that Denver had. I mean, the
Yeah.
no-fly zone and all that, but it was not like a given that they were going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, they were an underdog, and then they were, not the favorite to win almost every game in the playoffs. And I feel like the
Mm-hmm.
Rams have found themselves in this situation where it's like, and I told you this last week, I said, I'm taking the Rams, and it's Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. It's a bet on Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford to be good enough to upset a better team, a better
Mm-hmm.
roster, but not a better coach. Arguably, I don't know, wide receiver, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, whatever. They're
Mm-hmm.
both very capable. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you got to go with the Eagles, but the Rams played their best defensive game last week. I mean, Jared Verse had a defensive touchdown.
Yeah.
He has been amazing. So is Brendan Fisk. They're starting to roll, and I feel like the Rams are one of these underdog teams that are gonna come in and be well coached with a Super Bowl
Mm-hmm.
winning quarterback and a young defense, and they found their footing at the right time. It reminds me of last year. I'm taking the Rams to win this game.
Ooh,
This is gonna
shit.
be this is gonna be my upset of the week. I think the Rams are gonna I think they're gonna win this game, and then I think next week they're gonna go to Detroit, Matthew Stafford in Detroit, and that'll be the NFC Championship game.
Wow. It was a divisional round last year, and Kyle's calling the conference championship this year. I love it. Dude, the Stafford, Cooper Cup, Puka Nakua, who was it? Bigsby? Or no, not is it not Bigsby, Higby. And even Parker, the other tight end, like they looked really, really good on the offensive side. But what surprised me the most, I feel like, in my eyes, was how well that defense got through that Vikings offensive line. They were so good. Jared Verse um, caused absolute mayhem to Darnold. I think he picked up a fumble for a touchdown. At one point, they were causing turnovers. It was such a complete game by that defense by the Rams that I was like, where the fuck has this Rams defense been all season? They would have won the division by week 10. It
Rookie.
seemed like, what's that?
Well, rookies, they got to
Rookie,
find their
yeah.
footing.
Good point. Yeah. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, this defense looks amazing, and they did extremely well against a very, very good Vikings offense. And you could see Kevin O'Connell just like, what the fuck, like on the sidelines every time they'd put a camera on him, it would just be frustration. So with that being said, like the Rams defense needs to do that same thing against the Eagles because while the Eagles offense has a ton of names, it's got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, Goddard, Saquon Barkley. If you can disrupt the passing game, if you can disrupt Jalen Hurts, because the passing game last week against the Packers did not look good. They had converted on what, 2 of 11 of their third downs, and there was clear like issues between Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. Like they were able to connect and obviously kind of push the passing game, but there was definitely some struggles. And Jalen Hurts coming off of 2-3 weeks or whatever it was of concussion, okay, makes sense. Like he's trying to get his footing, and luckily for them, they still, in a sense, dominated the Packers last week. Obviously, taking into account all the Packers' injuries, which are probably more so than their roster in terms of injuries that they have now, was just a laundry list of injuries. But we know Saquon's a fucking beast. We know that already. There's no questions about that. It's just the defense for the Rams has to be able to disrupt Jalen Hurts, try to get through that offensive line, which is going to be difficult because that Eagles offensive line is one of, if not the best in the NFL. They're one of the best in the NFL offensive line wise, and Jalen Hurts is obviously a person who benefits from that. So he needs to be able to get the ball to his playmakers and keep that Rams defensive line and that second level, those edge rushers, those linebackers from being free to kind of rush, right? So get the running game established, which I don't believe will be difficult with Saquon, and get the passing game so that way they have to be able to cover AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and not give them anything. And then if Jalen Hurts needs to, he can also just, roll right, get that first down, get those 5-6 yards if he can, and kind of keep the ball moving forward. Also, the Eagles defense is also not something to kind of just forget about because they've been really good all year. And it kind of, in my opinion, it's the unit that's led them to where they're at now here in the divisional round and in the playoffs in general. So for me, I love what I saw last week from the Rams, but the Eagles seem to be another team that is inevitable here. In my opinion, I'm going to take the Eagles to beat the Rams, but it's going to be by like a field goal. It is going to be a close game, and I don't know what the spread is here.
This one's Eagles -6.
-6?
Yep.
Oh, wow. That to me is a little generous, I think. -6. I think it's going to be like a 3-point game.
Yeah, I mean, if I just really like Sean McVay, and
I get
think
it, yeah.
he's one of the best coaches in the league. I think they're going to have a good game plan. I mean, if McVay's defense plays with the kind of energy it had against Minnesota, I think anything's possible.
Yeah.
But like the Eagles are, it would be a major upset if they lost this game, right?
Yeah.
They're number one against the pass, number one in total defense. I think they're first running the ball. Like they're just built for January football. And But Sean McVay, anything's possible. So
Yep.
I'm just wondering, like, there's been those games where Jalen Hurts just can't get into a rhythm. It's like if the running game's not really working and they're playing good defense, and I could just see this being maybe like it's a frustrating game and the stadium's shocked and they just
Yeah.
can't like figure it out, and it's like
It'd be
really
crazy.
disappointing. I could just see it happening. But
Mm-hmm.
if the Eagles come out and they're just their regular selves, like they could just blow past the Rams. I mean, they have the power to do it. But that one will be fun. That one's going to be at
Oh yeah.
3 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. And then wild card, or I'm sorry, divisional round will be capped off at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time at Buffalo with the Baltimore
Mm-hmm.
Ravens, who are 13-5, going into Orchard Park to take on the 14-4 Buffalo Bills. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is a real toss-up. This could be
Yeah.
your AFC Championship game. This is just how the chips have fallen, where we're going to knock one out now. And it's crazy because both these teams feel like it's premature to knock them out in the divisional round, because I
Mm-hmm.
think you would take either of these teams over the other game in the AFC going on. But that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills or the Ravens will be eliminated this weekend. And with that said, I won't hold you in suspense for this one.
Oh.
I think this is going to be a damn close game, but I'm taking the Bills and Josh Allen to beat
Ooh.
the Baltimore Ravens. I just think the Baltimore Ravens, they've been playing great football,
Mm-hmm.
but I like Buffalo because they're at home. I like Buffalo because Josh Allen is healthy. I like Josh Allen in these type of games. I think no matter what happens, no one will be shocked unless it turns into a blowout, which I don't see
Mm-hmm.
happening. But I'm going to say in any toss up, give me the home team. And in this case, Josh Allen, who has had the perfect career, he's just missing that Super Bowl. And Lamar Jackson too. I mean, Lamar's been playing really good playoff games in the first round, and then all of a sudden he kind of shits the bed in the second round. But he also hasn't had a running back like Derrick Henry, and
Yeah.
they're going to be able to run the football. I don't know if Buffalo is going to need to stop the run. I don't know what that looks like. I mean, are we stopping him from 100, or are we trying to hold him to under 50? I mean, Derrick Henry got a lot of touches last week. How is his body going into this game? How many
Yeah.
touches realistically does he get? Lamar's playing at another MVP level. This is a great game, and anybody that tells you that they absolutely are confident one way or the other, I just don't believe you. Like, how do you really be like, there's absolutely no way Buffalo wins this game, or there's no way the Ravens win?
Yeah.
It's like, what are you
This
talking
is this
about?
was the
No,
matchup.
no
I
one
was gonna
thinks.
say that I feel like this is the matchup that both of these fan bases were like, please no. Like anyone else. Like I'll take the Chiefs at this point, right? Like and we know what the Chiefs can do, but this one, like you said, it's like, fuck, this is pretty evenly matched, right? Like who can win? What's the spread on this one?
1.5.
Yeah, yeah, that checks. That super
Yeah.
checks. This is gonna be a tough one. I also won't hold you guys in suspense. I'll say it outright. Bills at home as well. Bills at
Wow.
home. I'm taking the Bills at home, and this is gonna be a very close game. This isn't gonna be regular season Bills Ravens where the Ravens pretty much ran away with the win. You know, I say ran because Derrick Henry had like a 90-yard run for a touchdown on the same Bills defense. It was earlier in the season. And the defense has grown from that week 4, week 5 or 6 matchup with the Bills. We saw how well they played last week against the Broncos. They played really, really well. The offense, Josh Allen, Khalil Shakur looks good, man. Khalil Shakur looks really damn good as a wide receiver one. And on top of that, they got Cooper. Or yeah, right, Amari Cooper.
Or Amari Cooper.
Yeah, Cooper Cup too. Fuck it, throw him in there. Amari Cooper. They got them, and they got Dalton Kincaid there. Like, there are some weapons, and you can't talk about weapons without mentioning Josh Allen. This guy, like we said earlier, like, he can run the ball, and he won't try to evade you with speed. He will try to run through you. I mean, he had a touchdown a few weeks ago, where I forget what team he was playing, but he ran right through like 4 people into the end zone. So Josh Allen isn't scared of throwing the ball 20 plus yards down the field to his boys Shakur and Amari Cooper and God, their rookie, right? Don't they have a rookie on there? There's someone I'm missing. Regardless, Keon Coleman. Yes, thank you. Like, he's not afraid to throw it down there, and his guys are ready to catch it. And the defense, I think, is going to have a tough time on their hands too. I mean, it's Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. I think that was their issue in that matchup they had with them in the regular season, was covering Lamar, making sure to kind of seal off the edges for him. Like, obviously, other than a big run against the Bills defense that Derrick Henry had, for the most part, the Bills defense was able to make sure nothing else, kind of, at least an explosive play with a run, was able to get through there, through the defensive line. But then it's like, okay, well, what's Lamar going to do now? Is he going to throw it, or is he going to run it? Right. So it's kind of like a pick your poison. Do you want to try to contain Derrick Henry, or really, really contain Lamar Jackson? Like, which one are we going with? Right.
Just that's what the RPO is. I mean, and there's nobody running the RPO better than Baltimore right now, and that's what killed the Steelers. Like, they had no answer for the RPO, because whatever you decide, Lamar has incredible instincts, and if he sees, I mean, it's not a play. It's a play that is decided in the middle of the play. So I mean, if Lamar's like, they're going after Derrick, I'm going to tuck it. And then if not, if he's like, wow, the linebackers are trying to protect the edges, I'm going to give it to Derrick. It's like, there's no answer. All you can do is hope to contain. No one's getting shut down.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's exactly right. So the Bills defense is going to have a lot on their hands. And then, turning to the Ravens, obviously we talked about their weapons, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry being 1 and 2. Isaiah Likely's doing really good. Rashad Bateman is doing really well when Lamar does pass the ball. And we had talked about this, I believe, last week or prior to the wild card games. We were like, they can't get away from the run like they abandoned the run last year in the playoffs, and they're not going to.
No.
So we know they're not going to. It's Derrick Henry. It's a different animal in terms of the run game with Derrick Henry. But the beautiful thing is too, it's like, you got Rashad Bateman, you got Isaiah Likely, and Mark Andrews obviously as well. I don't know about Zay Flowers, if he's still questionable or not going to play.
Okay. I mean, there's like, we don't know what kind of strength he's going to be at. Zay Flowers might be not at full strength, but we'll see what he looks like. It's just it's pretty incredible when I saw the injury in real time. I was watching that game, and I'm surprised that he's back, to be honest.
Yeah. So, he has to kind of get the rust off, and we'll see how many plays they decide to put him in for, because like you said, like, it's the fact that he's back in, they're going to want to be a little careful with him. Obviously he missed the wild card game.
Yeah, and the difference between the Zay Flowers injury and the David Montgomery injury, 2 players that got bad injuries that are coming back this week, is like, for Zay Flowers and the Ravens, I feel like if you don't you're going to have to beat the Bills, whether it's in the conference championship or it's the divisional round. Like, it fell in the divisional round, but it's like, hey, we need all hands on deck, and it doesn't matter if you're not fully healthy. Like, we will risk losing you for the rest of the postseason if that means we can get past the Bills, because we think we have a better
Yeah.
chance of winning the Super Bowl without you if the Bills aren't an opponent in the
Mm-hmm.
future. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
like the Lions, like I would still be like very conservative with Dave Montgomery and just see how that game's going.
Yeah,
I
you got
don't.
Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah.
You got Jahmyr Gibbs. I would be like, I'm glad David Montgomery's an option. Like if the game's really close in the third quarter, like okay, well throw that away. Like we're gonna play him.
Mm-hmm.
But if you got a 10-point lead and you feel like Gibbs is handling it pretty well, I would be getting him ready for the Eagles or the Commanders. That's just like my thing. Where I feel like two players that are going to be playing not at full strength in different situations.
Yeah, it's a good point. And like I said, like with or without Zay Flowers, they were able to do a lot of good things with the weapons that they do have. Rashad Bateman, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews. So I love the offensive weapons on the Ravens, and their defense has improved a bit. And I was looking at the stats here too. So the Ravens defense was going from, let me pull this up. So through the first 10 games, through 10 games after the Buffalo game, they were allowing 368 yards, 25 plus points per game. Over the last 8 games, including Saturday's wildcard win over the Steelers, they improved those to 264 yards and 15 points. That's over 100 yards and about 10 points being shaven off with the Ravens defense, and they do that through bringing in Nate Wiggins as a cornerback, shuffling up their linebackers. So the Ravens have seen their defense. They identified what's been going on with their defense, and they've improved it. So they've improved their defense, and especially in a very critical game, again, against the Bills. I just think for me, it's Josh Allen. It's even Cook, Jared Cook, or not Jared Cook. What's his name? James Cook. Sorry, I always say Jared Cook or Delvin Cook, but James Cook as well. Kincaid, their receivers, their offensive line, they played extremely well last week, and their defense did play extremely well last week as well. But both of these defense are going to have their hands full. I mean, this is going to be a very close game, 3-point game, 2-point game, something like that, similar to the Eagles and the Rams. But I'm taking the Bills to take the dub here. I think it might be another high scoring game, like 35, 38, something like that. It's going to be high 30s, might even get into the 40s. We'll see. But just Josh Allen, kind of how Kyle was saying earlier, it's like we need all hands on deck for the Ravens to get through the Bills, because the Bills are such a tough team, and especially with Josh Allen at quarterback. I mean, the window, I remember a couple of years ago, we were talking about the Bills' window. Is it closed? But it's never closed with Josh Allen there as a quarterback. And that's what he continues to prove week in and week out, that it is not. The Bills are going to be a playoff team for as long as Josh Allen is the quarterback, something that Burrow has said as well. But I believe it a little bit more with Josh Allen and this Bills team. I think they're going to get the job done at home, especially. But it's going to be a very close game, a high 30s point game, maybe into the 40s. And that is all I got to say on that. That is all the games we've got, guys. So, like Kyle said, on Saturday we got Texans Chiefs. I've got the Texans. Kyle's got the Chiefs. Commanders going to Detroit, taking on the Lions. Both Kyle and I are saying Lions are inevitable. Last year in the NFC Championship game where they lost the San Francisco 49ers, we thought, nope, it's inevitable. On Saturday, that'll be the Saturday night game. Sunday early game will be Rams at Eagles. Kyle's got the Rams. I'm taking the Eagles. And then Sunday night, it's all gonna come together with the Ravens going into Buffalo. Not only taking on the Bills, but taking on that Bills Mafia. Sunday Night Football, for the most part. Kyle and I both have the Bills by a slim margin, and we were looking at the spread, saying it was like minus 1.5 point spread. Forgot who they were. I believe it was the Bills are giving them 1.5 because of the home field advantage here. I'm looking on NFL.com too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 10. Wow, 8 out of 10 are taking the Ravens to win
Yeah,
this game. 8 out of 10 people are
surprising.
taking the Ravens. Yeah, dude. Only 2 out of 10 are taking the Bills, and I'm seeing a lot of 27s, 31-28s, 33-27s. They're thinking it's going to be a high-scoring game. That's what I think. I'm thinking it's going to be a high-scoring one as well.
I think NFL had 5 of 6.
Oh,
Baltimore.
wow. Holy shit. A lot of people taking the Ravens.
What'd you say?
A lot of people taking the Ravens. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
whether to be surprised or not. I just feel like with the home field advantage, maybe in my eyes, obviously, I think the Bills are going to take it. But
You know what I think it is though? Like I think at the end, I feel like at the end of the day, when you just go like roster player for player, I think people like the Ravens roster more.
yeah, yeah, I could see that because sometimes that's kind of what I'll base picks off of, depending on like if I think it's going to be a close enough game, right? Like
Which is
I was going to say, go ahead.
the last little thing about this game, which is kind of funny, is like going into the season, I think I was the only person that thought Josh Allen would win MVP and the Bills were going to be in this game. Most people were like, they lose Gabriel Davis, Stephon Diggs. It's going to be a down year for the Bills, but they
Yeah,
have Josh Allen, so they'll probably still win around 10 games. And then they like totally, overreach their
yeah,
expectations. Whereas when Baltimore acquired Derrick Henry, it was Super Bowl or bust.
yeah, 100%.
So now here we are in this toss-up game, but if we take a step back, the Ravens have so much more to lose than the Bills, in my opinion, in
Yeah,
this game. Because if Baltimore, like if the Bills lose, it's like, all right, we need to beef up the D line, get a couple more superstars. We did good for what we had. If the Ravens lose, it's like,
we went
how do you
all
go
in.
back to the drawing board?
Yeah,
Like, what
yeah,
is it? Lamar's playing at an MVP level. You got the best running back, arguably, in the league. I mean, what it's a lot harder to get ready for the next season if you're Baltimore and you lose this game. So I think people
yeah.
realize that, and they realize that Baltimore realizes that. So they're just going that way with it. But it would be crushing for Baltimore to lose
Yeah.
in the divisional round, because that is just it's like, cool, you beat the Steelers and then you lost,
Because it was the AFC Championship that they lost in last year. At least they got there. It's like you said, they're going all in with Derrick Henry. It's a 1-year deal, sure, but he's played his ass off when people like me thought, oh, he hit 30, it's over, 31, whatever it is. Like it's going to be a declining year for him, and he fucking pulled this season, and it was like, holy shit, everything we know about 30-plus-year-old running backs is gone.
Dude,
It's over.
do you think it's more likely for Derrick Henry to re-sign with the Baltimore Ravens? What's more likely for him to do that, if they lose or they win?
This game or just what do you
Yeah,
mean?
this game, but I guess big picture, I'm talking about the playoffs. Like if it's I'll just say it this way: if the Ravens don't get to the Super Bowl versus getting to the Super Bowl, which one's more likely for? Because it's a 1-year deal, like you said. Which one's more likely for them to
Oh
be
man.
wanting to bring Derrick Henry back next year?
I honestly I think you want to re-sign if you get to the Super Bowl. The only problem is, can they re-sign you? And what are you going to ask for after the season you just had if you're Derrick Henry? What's more likely for
15.
Derrick Henry? If they get to the Super Bowl, what's more likely for the Ravens? I don't think they can re-sign him.
I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
if you're Derrick Henry, you're like, fuck you. I'm not doing a 1-year deal anymore.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. I agree with that.
because he's like, I deserve some financial insurance over here. Like, you can't just keep getting the best running back play in the NFL out of a 1-year deal. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, F yourself.
And
um,
and and you'll probably be like, and if not, I mean, I'll just go to I'll go to the
Broncos.
fucking. I was gonna say like Bengals or the Steelers and be the number one running
Bo
back
Nix,
and kill them.
Bo Nix with Derrick Henry, and we
Oh,
bring in Garrett Wilson.
oh,
And
Broncos would
there's some
fucking
talk
kill.
that the Broncos want Sauce Gardner to opposite Sertan
You mean Sauce Gardner? Yeah.
to be on the other
Wow,
side. Dude,
that'll be a
it's
good
so
one.
cool to be. I've already like gotten to that point now where I'm like, dude, I'm just excited that like we can add a couple pieces and be like one of these teams that are playing right now.
No, I agree. It's nice to be up there. But yeah, the Derrick Henry question, that's a good one, man. That is a good one.
You know, I wanted to ask you in just like in 2 minutes, because we don't have a
Mm-hmm.
ton of time for this, and this is more of an off-season question, but I was driving to work and I was thinking about like Lamar Jackson and the way he plays, and I was thinking about how specific his skill set is. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, man, but it's like you need an offensive coordinator that knows what you're good at and they call what you're good at. Josh Allen has that. Jared Goff has that. He's not he might be like the last unmobile quarterback in our generation.
Yeah.
Um, but I was wondering, do you feel like as a Bears fan, you know what Caleb is good at? Or do you feel like next year is still the discovery phase? Because I feel like part of making a quarterback excel in a system is knowing what they're good at. And it dawned on me to ask you, do you feel like you know what Caleb is good at?
Yeah. I feel like I know, like, Caleb is not going to be a mobile quarterback. You said Jared Goff. I feel like it might be Caleb Williams in terms of, especially going with the crop of quarterbacks that we had just this past season. I think I don't want to say the least mobile. I didn't really see a lot of Michael Penix. Drake May ran the ball quite a bit. Obviously, Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels is number one in terms of mobility.
But these
Uh,
guys run 4.5s. Like Goff runs a 5.7.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of what they're good at, right? Like, I think Caleb is good at being in the pocket and throwing the ball. I think he's good at going outside the pocket, making some time, and getting it to his guy who has to, get off of his defender and make some shit up on the fly. And that's where Caleb's good at as well. If Caleb needs to run, he's gonna run. But I know
Not designed
just
run.
not, yeah, and they'll throw in probably some design runs. It is, because he does have like, I think the second or no, probably third most rushing yards by a quarterback. Jane Daniels, Bo Nix, and him this year, the rookies. They'll throw some in there if he wants to, but Caleb is trying to have a Tom Brady type of career. Doesn't get hit a lot, is able to get it to his playmakers, and stays in the league for 20 years. Like, that's what he wants, and he knows what he's going to be, what he's good at, and that was what he's good at. He's like, he can make plays by getting outside the pocket, and he can also be in the pocket and get it to his playmakers as long as the offensive scheme is correct. So, as a fan, I feel like, yes, I do know what he's good at, and it's not running the ball like at all.
It'll be exciting. I know in the wild card round, I was like, why didn't we do any design runs with Bo Nix? As he's so good at it. And then on Monday, I found out that he had 3 fractured discs in his back, and
Yeah.
he
Wow.
and that dude, that's not like shin splints, those like stress fractures, but like that was like a huge thing. And I was like, well, I think that's probably why Peyton was holding back on some of those RPO stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He actually got it in the game before the Browns game, and he was like, no, I'm not missing my first Monday Night Football game. So he went out there and just kind of played through it. It wasn't very noticeable from my end, but
Yeah,
I
me
was
neither.
encouraged because I was like, man, I think maybe if he was fully healthy, maybe there's even more, to this guy. And I felt like he was at 100. So, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and for the lack of design runs for him, I mean, I think I had texted you or something like that. I was like, Bo Nix is saying, "Fuck it, I'm gonna take this game over," and
oh yeah,
he was doing a lot of running there in the second half. So yeah, for the lack of design runs, he was taking a lot of plays into his own hands there.
we only had 5 possessions in the first half, and 4 of them were drops on third down. Cortland
Yep.
Sutton too. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
like it was very frustrating. But next year, it's
Yeah.
okay. Next year, and there's a couple teams
Next
that
year.
I feel like next year they have a lot of hope. The Bears should
I fucking hope so.
also, and man, I just can't wait because I have so many questions for you. Like, do you feel like Caleb Williams has more or less pressure going into this year? But we can
Yeah.
we can save it for the. Do you?
Do I think he'll have more pressure going into next year than this year? No, because he blew all the rookie quarterback records out of the water for the Bears, which, let's be honest, it's not that fucking hard to do. He had almost 3,600, if not 3,600 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, the highest ratio, touchdown interception ratio from a rookie in who knows how long. There was a lot to like in such a tumultuous dog shit season where he had 2 head coaches and 2 play callers. 3 technically if you want to count the OC for Thomas Brown, but really it was 2 head coaches, 2 play callers. So, and with such a shitty offensive line. So, I don't think there's going to be that much pressure going into next season because it's going to be a new head coach and a new staff and more than likely an improved line, offensive line, hopefully filled with a good mix of veterans and maybe a rookie here or there. So in terms of next year versus this past year, I think they're going to be a lot lower because we saw what Caleb was able to do. It's just now, can the coaching staff that's coming in implement a good offensive line, and can we get the right people on that offensive line or offensive scheme and get the right people in the offensive line to kind of go further and expound on his rookie season.
And it's funny because I think it was a month ago, I called it. I said, Ben Johnson's going to the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy is going to the Bears.
I'll be so mad, dude. We were just talking about this
I was like,
pre-show. Kyle was like, Kyle, why the fuck would you say that 3 weeks ago and now it's happening? Every list I see, it's like Mike McCarthy, Ben Johnson, Mike McCarthy, and I'm like, stop.
Because everybody knows Ben Johnson is going to do the Lions a solid and not stay in the division. He's being
the favorite for the Raiders. Like, I hate that.
If you were the head coach and I was your OC and I was like one of the baddest OCs in the league, and I was like, I had an opportunity to go somewhere where I was going to go against you twice a year, or a team that maybe I play you once, but if not, we'll meet in the playoffs. I would probably go to the other one because.
Yeah, but you say that without being in the position of Ben Johnson.
Well, do you think like he? Well, yeah, of course. I mean, this is all hypothetical. I'm not in the NFL. I'm just saying, like, he said he was staying with Dan Campbell. Loyalty had a big part of it. I don't know, like, if that loyalty extends beyond him being with the Lions. But Dan Campbell is the kind of head coach that you'll run through a wall for. So it just wouldn't shock me if that loyalty is stronger than a typical OC head coach, because Dan Campbell's one of those personalities. Like, he's one of those guys, but maybe he wants to play Dan Campbell. There's the flip side of it where he might want to, but I guess the Bears will probably make a decision pretty soon, right? Is that coming up in the next month, you think?
Honestly, it should. I feel like a lot of people are expecting it sooner, and I'm like,
how
is this how it? Playoffs? That's what I'm saying. I'm like, is this how decisions are made? Like, you have the Zoom call with Ben Johnson and not an in-person, and like you hire him, but Mike McCarthy is free of, hands washed of the Cowboys and of any team. He's doing interviews. They flew him in person, obviously, because he was totally done with the Cowboys. Everybody else was a Zoom call, which is like a little scary. But yeah, and so I was like, I don't know where the expectations on how quick the Bears are going to make the decision, because again, I'm looking at people saying this is taking way too long. Why haven't the Bears made a decision? But I'm also hearing people like, yeah, if you're going to hire Ben Johnson, you want to kind of see him go to the Super Bowl, right? And it's like, what does this mean? Like, does it mean we're not going to get a coach after the Super Bowl, or does this mean like the Bears are taking too long? Like, which one is it? You know what I mean? So I don't really know.
Ben Johnson doesn't need to go to the Super Bowl to prove anything.
Right, but it is cool to see. It is nice to see, like, oh shit, okay, he's in the Super Bowl. But I agree,
If the Lions
he doesn't
score
need to
40
go there.
points and lose, then that has nothing to do with Ben Johnson. That's just like things fans say that are just like fans are fans and coaches are coaches. Like
I agree. I don't think he needs to go to Super Bowl
if the Lions give up 40. You know, like
yeah, 100%. I don't think that should matter. I think his entire body of work, going from a wide receivers coach to offensive coordinator of the Lions and being number one in points and yards for like 2-3 straight seasons, I think that's more than enough. So
right.
I just don't know what the expectations are when you have interviewed Ben Johnson, who's currently in the playoffs and obviously game planning for some of the most important games in his life, right, coming up so far. Or is it, are they taking too long? Like, I just don't know where we're
regardless, I would say if Ben Johnson's a serious candidate for the Bears, which he is, I wouldn't expect a decision to be made until after the Super Bowl. If the Lions don't make it to the Super Bowl, then yeah, you can expect something quicker. But they're doing the Zoom, they're doing the due diligence, but like they're gonna want to sit down with this guy face to face with like paper, and they're not gonna hire him over the computer. That's just not how it works. So like,
yeah, and the only other hiring that has happened has been Vrabel to the Patriots, which everyone was like, yeah, that's gonna happen tomorrow, and it happened tomorrow. You know what I mean? Everybody knew that was coming.
Yeah, and that is just a great hire. It'll be interesting to see.
100%.
Are there any other vacancies?
Saints
And
Jaguars, Raiders, Jets, Bears, and yeah, the Pats, I think, was the other one.
If I remember correctly, like the Broncos didn't hire Sean Payton until
and Cowboys,
like March. Deion Sanders might be the Cowboys.
I heard about that too. Yeah,
and man, it's just so exciting. I think that would be a great place for Deion too, because the thing is like,
to the Cowboys?
I don't feel like anyone's more happy than Mike McCarthy that he's not with the Cowboys.
Like, I mean, I think that goes for all Dallas Cowboy head coaches after they get fired.
Dude, that place is toxic. Jerry Jones runs a toxic program. I could never be a head coach in a program like that where I take all the blame, but I make none of the decisions. Like, fuck that. And on top of that, like, Deion Sanders might be that guy that could change everything, where he's like, he's got one of those personalities that's like, no, we're doing it my way, or you're going to hire a different coach. And Jerry Jones might have 5 years left of his life. He might be done doing it his way. And hiring of someone like Deion Sanders would indicate that he's changing, and that's good for the Cowboys. So
yeah,
we'll see, man.
I don't know, Crafty, if he's already turned it down. Maybe there have been reports.
They haven't scheduled an interview yet. One thing to keep in mind is that Colorado did secure the #1 high school quarterback in the nation.
Wow.
So Colorado as a program, I don't feel like Deion's done yet, but being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys might be something that I would be shocked if he didn't interview, right? And that's what all coaches do. Like even Jim 100%. Harbaugh, before he won the Natty, he listened to the Broncos before they hired Sean Payton. And that's just what great coaches do. They always take the call, no matter what. So
there's only 32 of these jobs. Like, we got to remember that 32 people have this job, and that's it.
Yeah,
so and it's a prestigious job.
And if you're Deion, like, hey, the way this program's been turning around, like, I'm going to get an opportunity down the road. It doesn't have to be this one, like Ben Johnson last year. So I feel like my gut's telling me Deion's going to stay in Colorado because job's not finished. But we'll see. He did play with the Cowboys. Maybe
Yep.
there's some emotional ties there that
Yeah.
make him prematurely end the Colorado thing. He did leave the HBCU for a better opportunity. Who's to say he wouldn't do that? Because one thing Deion has done is take the best opportunity. It does seem that way, that he's willing to do that. But we'll see. I mean, this is all hypotheticals, but it's exciting, man, because I feel like the NFL is just – it's going to change so much here in the next month. And it's exciting to see. Like, I think the Patriots are already heading in the right direction. I never liked the Gerard Mayo signing. I just didn't.
Yeah.
I
I
didn't
was
like.
always very hot and cold on it. I was like, maybe it'll work out.
And I don't. I didn't like the Falcons. What's his?
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. The defensive guy.
Yeah.
Yep. I know what you mean.
I know that's two black head coaches. Like, it's not. It has nothing to do with that.
Wow, Kyle.
I'm sitting here
wow.
like going through like. No, it's just like.
And it's funny because you're like, Deion Sanders of the Cowboys would be sick, but Gerard Mayo and this fucking guy, and it's like, yeah, okay,
it's fine. Just like defense isn't the way to go right now, right? It's just not. It's not the way to go, and especially like Gerard Mayo being like Bill Belichick. It's like, just don't even turn the chapter, close the book and put it on the shelf.
Put it away. Yep.
And they're finally going to do that. And the same thing with the Falcons. I thought that was interesting because he's already been a head coach and he didn't do well. And then you saw the way, I mean, Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers coming off the Achilles injury, you could tell. I mean, that I think that was something. We'll see what both of them have in store. But anyway, let's get into our power rankings because, Rick,
it's time for
top five, no debating. Top five.
Top five. Kyle?
Top five.
Top 8, actually, because there's only 8 teams left in playing in the NFL. Kyle and I are going to rank. Shout out to Casey and Crafty, by the way, in the chat. We're going to rank our remaining 8 teams here in the NFL playoffs. There's 4 games. There's 8 teams. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And Kyle, I'm going to let you go first while I go take a quick pee for the D. I'll be right back.
At number 8, I have the Denver Broncos. I know they're not in it anymore, but
stop.
I know. I'm just, oh man, I knew Rick was going to see that. Okay. At number 8, which will be my worst playoff team. And by the way, it's kind of weird doing this because there might be a team, if we were just doing a power ranking with not only the remaining teams, that I wouldn't even have at 8. But this is tough because the way we're going to do it is that the 8 remaining teams are being ranked. So at number 8, I have the Houston Texans. I have the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans played a great game, but they were the worst team this season that made it to the playoffs, I think. I mean, I know the Chargers and Broncos ate a shit sandwich, but I still felt like the overall sample size of the regular season was more impressive than the Texans, but the Texans were in a very, very weak division. I mean, just beating up on the Colts, Titans, and Jags and kind of stumble into the playoffs and then played a really good game. But I do feel like it's going to be like last year where they play a really good game against the Browns and then get schmacked by the Ravens, but this time it'll be the Chiefs. I don't know if it'll be a schmacking because I don't think the Chiefs have the firepower that the Ravens had last year. But I do think the Houston Texans are the least threatening team remaining in the playoffs.
Ooh, okay. So you're going Texans at number 8. For me at number 8, I'm actually going to go Commanders here. They were impressive, and late in the game there against the Bucks. But if it's between the Texans and the Commanders here, that Texans defense is just outstanding, man. And we've seen time and time and again defenses really kind of be that driving force between a team making it to the playoffs or getting through the playoffs and getting, possibly all the way to the Super Bowl or at least getting them into the next round. And the Texans have that type of defense, but with a really good, really great defense, you need that offense to move the ball. And with CJ Stroud and Nico Collins and Mixon there, I think the Texans move the ball a little bit better than Jaden Daniels and Eckler and Robinson and Scary Terry there. So I'm going to go with the Commanders at number 8.
Wow. I like it. Not really, but it's okay. At number 7, I'm going to put the Commanders here. Mm-hmm. I thought Jaden Daniels would be the best quarterback in this year's draft class, and he is the only one still playing football. We got to keep in mind that the Commanders came into the league with a 5.5 to 6 win projection. One of the things Broncos and Commanders had in common was that they drafted the right quarterback and their entire season changed. The other thing that both of them have in common is they got the coach right. Dan Quinn isn't like you get coaches that get a second chance, but I mean, this is my thing with Atlanta. I mean, you got, what is it, Raheem Mathis?
Raheem Morris.
Raheem Morris, thank you. Mm-hmm. Raheem Morris was already a head coach. He's getting a second chance, but he didn't have success like that his first go around.
Yeah.
You do get coaches that shit the bed, get a second chance, and they're a lot better. That's not the case with Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn went to the Super Bowl as a head coach.
Yep.
And now he's getting a second chance. And I feel like his stint in the Cowboys might have been way overdue, where he was way overqualified for that position. But he was just letting the storm die out of 28-3. And that was a storm that lasted a long time. The fact that I can just say those numbers and you know what I'm talking about, even if it's out of this context, you would know what I'm talking about. I mean, that's a storm that needs to die down, and it did. And honestly, that was on Kyle Shanahan. And Kyle Shanahan has a track record of choking in important games, coaching differently in big games. And I put that loss on him, not on Dan Quinn. But when you're the head coach, you take all the heat for it. Dan Quinn was a great coach then, and he's, if not better now. The offensive coordinator, damn, they got him right. I mean, he ends up turning down hand jobs in the Philippines to come
from
here.
Lady Boys.
He said, you know what? I'm tired of coming. Called Jaden, and he said, Jaden, I'm coming.
Dick's raw, I'm out.
Dick's raw, I am done. He's like, you can only jerk off so many times. I mean, it is. Trust me, I don't know if you've ever been that bored, but like after the 4th round, you're like, I got to do something else.
Yep.
And
I'm
my
not forearm hurts.
Yeah, I'm sweating. I have to change my sheath. What am I doing? Like, why do I need to get this one? But shit. Anyway, like, how do you even segue? He ends up leaving because he saw something in Jaden Daniels that he felt like was an opportunity that could put him back into the head coaching conversation. And he was right. And he's done that in his 1 year. I mean, Jaden Daniels, his late game magic has been consistent. He has ice in his veins, man. And anytime you have a franchise quarterback, you have an opportunity in any game. And we talk about their defense. I think they're the number 3 passing defense in the league. Dan Quinn's a defensive guy. Their running
Yeah.
defense is susceptible. It's his first year. Like, he doesn't have the people, the personnel that he wants yet. He's got the staff right. He's got the quarterback right. He's got the offense right. The passing defense is right. This team's capable of anything, but it's their first year. I don't think this one's going to have a magical ending, but it's been a fairy tale franchise season, and the Commanders are proud to be fans again. They're packing out the stadium for the first time in decades since RG3.
Yep.
So I got the Commanders here at 7, and I didn't think that I would have them this high when the season started. I was bullish on Jane Daniels, but they've even surpassed those expectations.
Yeah, no, for sure. At number 7 for me, I'm going Texans. So just flip-flopping our 7 and 8. I got Texans at number 7. Again, I mentioned that their defense is outstanding. They destroyed the Chargers. They got turnovers. They got to Herbert. They stopped the run. They stopped everything on the offense. And like I said, if you have a great defense, that's great. But can the offense at least move the ball and be a mid-tier offense? And yeah, CJ Stroud, we've talked about it all year, has not had the type of season that he had his rookie season. But he's won his second playoff game in 2 years. He's got Mixon in the backfield now. Even Damian Pierce had a really good game last week too. He broke off for a big run. Nico Collins, as long as he's healthy, like, this offense is dangerous. So for me, you got that great defense, that pretty dominant defense, and you've got an offense that can move the ball. That's a recipe for moving on in the playoffs, possibly even Super Bowl if you can get there, right? So I've got the Texans at number 7.
At number 6, I have.
Say it.
This was tough.
Say it.
I have the Chiefs.
Yeah, I knew it.
I got the Chiefs. There's a ton of concerns with the Chiefs. We know what they are. I have them ranked higher than the Texans, and I picked them to win. So I feel like I'm not doing anything outside the rules here. I just look at the Chiefs, and I wonder how they will get to the big game. And the confidence score is lower than ever. But we did feel this way last year. But we saw Travis Kelce and Mahomes have that unreal connection that just flipped the switch in the playoffs. If they can do that again, you might as well just put them at 1. I just don't feel confident that they're going to be able to do that, because I do think there's something going on relationally. Will they be able to put everything aside and just get back to being happy on the field and playing free and having fun? Because that's really what when you think of Mahomes running around, extending the play, and Travis Kelce finding the soft spot in the zone, that's all playing free. That's not scripted. They need to get back to that. I think the relationship between Kelce and Mahomes is paramount when it comes to where the Chiefs are going to be ranked. They haven't shown me that connection up to this point. So I have to put them there. They are one of the teams that is in its own category because they have Mahomes. So they're capable of anything, but it just doesn't feel like this is going to be a three-peat year, at least from where I stand. But we've been telling the same story about the Chiefs for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and here they are. I mean, I don't really know that the Chiefs are the most confusing team in the NFL by far.
At number 6 for me, I'm going to go with the LA Rams. Very impressive win on both sides of the ball last week in the wild card game against the Vikings. And I like a lot of the players. I don't know. The defense was again outstanding. I'm not taking anything away from them. Can they continue it right against the Eagles into these playoffs? Can Stafford, continue to be Stafford? Obviously, we've seen him in the playoffs with the Rams, go all the way to the Super Bowl, playing the way he has. But he's obviously a little bit older, a little less mobile, can get injured, probably a little bit more prone to injury, but he's a tough motherfucker. I will say, like, I'm putting him above the Commanders and Texans because of the play of Matthew Stafford, of Puka and Cooper, and just Jared Verse and that defense being able to disrupt that offense of the Vikings last week. But I think there's still 5 teams overall better than the Rams. That's why I got them at number 6.
At number 5, I got the Rams. The Rams, they crack my top 5 because of the way they won that game. They just trounced the Vikings. I mean, they dominated. There was no chance. The Vikings were beat and they were handled. I mean, it was the kind of win that really put the Rams in a different tier. And it's not really just this one game, because sometimes a team will have a big win. And I know you're doing this with the Texans right now. I'm not doing that with the Rams. The reason the Rams are this high is because Stafford's won his last 6 starts in a row. I mean, this just happens to be like they heated up at the exact right time. And you got to keep in mind, in that 6-game winning streak for Stafford, you have a 44-42 win over the Bills. The Rams have shown, in my opinion, in that game against the Bills, they proved to me that they can play with anybody in the NFL. Now, there are other teams that have more talent and they're just more equipped to go to the big game. But the Rams couldn't have asked for a better time to play their best brand of football. And we'll see how far it can take them. I got the Rams at 5.
For me, at number 5, Colin and I just keep flip-flopping. I've got the Chiefs at number 5. It's been a while since we've seen Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, the core really play football. So I'm kind of going off of their season as a whole, right? Again, we've talked, like you said, we've been talking about the Chiefs and the way they've played football all season long. They're probably, not the most dominant 15-2 team going into these playoffs here. But I still got them top 5. I've still got them top 5 because they did win 15 games, and they did that by being the Chiefs, by, beating teams, playing close games and still coming out on top. In my opinion, that's kind of what a good defense will do for you too, because the defense was good. Yes, there were some high scoring games, there were some low scoring games, but the defense will help you out in that aspect too, right? Like, can you move the ball? Can you be a mediocre mid-tier offense? Yes. Okay, you're probably going to get into the playoffs. And if you're in the playoffs, you're probably going to go a couple games into the playoffs, if not, again, to the ultimate prize of a Super Bowl. Now, that being said, they're number 5 out of the top 5 because I haven't played them watch football. So they're in my top 5, but we'll see where they're at after this divisional round matchup. Of course, I've got them losing to the Texans, who I've got ranked at number 7. But I've seen the Texans and that defense play a lot more recently than the Chiefs in that defense. And last time we saw the Chiefs play, they got blown out by the Broncos. So that does a little something to the rankings. But for me, I've got the Chiefs at number 5.
Chiefs backups.
Exactly.
Okay. I like it, but
okay. Well, hold on.
At number 4, and this is where it got really tough, at least for me. At number 4, I got the Ravens. The Ravens are playing really good football. I mean, I like all these teams a lot, but I don't really have a but. They're playing good. I don't know. Like,
honestly,
I had to pick a team at 4, so I went with the Ravens because we're in the playoffs, and Lamar Jackson statistically has been really bad in the postseason when it comes to these type of football games.
Okay, I get it. At number 4 for me, I'm going Eagles. And I kind of talked about it during our prediction between the Eagles and the Rams. Jalen Hurts in the passing game doesn't look great. We can clearly see that Saquon is like the prime time guy, right? Like when you're looking at a marquee, it's Saquon Barkley and then Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, right? In smaller lettering. That's kind of what the offense is right now. And again, that's no slight to any of the rest of the guys. They just need to match that. They need to have a balanced attack of that running game and of that passing game. And then on top of all that, you got a good defense. You got a really good defense. That front four is amazing. Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter have been playing lights out, right? And we've already talked about Cooper DeJean and oh god, I forget the other cornerback's name at the time, but they got two stellar rookie cornerbacks. The defense again as a whole is just really, really good. But to me, the Eagles are not as good as the top 3 teams, and I've got them at number 4.
Yeah, at number 3, I have the Eagles. The Eagles have to be here because of the way the Super Bowl is going. The offense, playmakers all over the field, best offensive line in football, best coordinators in the game. Jalen Hurts has already proven that he can take his team to the Super Bowl. He is the leader of the team. Jalen Carter's playing at an insane level. Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are amazing.
Mitchell, yeah.
I've had the Eagles in my top 5. I think it was like week 9 where I was like, I'm doing something this week.
Yeah.
And it was the draft that, I mean, you go all the way back to April of last year, and that's really when I knew.
I was going to say the last 2 drafts have been awesome for him.
Yeah. And when they were able to get those 2 DBs, I mean, I was like, there's just, they get the 2 DBs and they add Saquon Barkley and they get the coordinators right. And it's like, yeah, the Eagles are going to the NFC Championship. And that's where they're headed. That is where they're headed. But it's just, there's a lot of really good teams here.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they'll win the NFC Championship game. So I didn't want to put them ahead of the person or the team that wins the AFC Championship game.
Like, and Kyle, again, we're flip-flopping here. I've got the Ravens at 3. So up until this point, Kyle and I have had just the reverse of teams, but I got the Ravens here. And the reason I'm putting them up above the Eagles is both of their defenses are very good. There's obviously holes in both of those defenses where the teams can exploit. The Ravens, most notably, is their secondary and their passing game. But if you're asking me in a shootout or even just like in terms of talent, who am I going with? I've got to go Lamar Jackson and I've got to go Derrick Henry. If we're going quarterback, running back, I think the Eagles have the edge slightly in terms of wide receiver room. Possibly even tight end, but I think they're a pretty damn good matchup there. But if you're going Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, I'm going Lamar Jackson every time. He makes a lot more dynamic plays than I would say Jalen Hurts. He can get around a lot better. Obviously, when we talk about recency, Jalen Hurts is dealing with that concussion, and he's been out of the game for about 2 weeks, which showed again last week. So for me, that's why I've got the Ravens at number 3. Right now, I'm taking them over the Eagles.
Which could be a Super Bowl. It could be a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
At number 2, I got the Buffalo Bills, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Bills right now, especially the predictions that we looked at. You got to keep in mind that Josh Allen's playing just at a ridiculous level. I mean, that fourth down where they went for it and he threw that touchdown pass to the running back, that was just like the best throw of the year by any quarterback.
Ridiculous. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I mean, it sucked that it happened to me, but it's like now that it's been a week, we can talk about it. Josh Allen he's doing things like that, I mean, it's ridiculous. And like I said, this is a real running game with James Cook. And they're a balanced team and they're playing really good. And barring a massive upset by Houston, the Bills win this game, and then they're going to be playing the Chiefs, who they beat by 9 points in Buffalo earlier this season. I just feel like Buffalo's path to the Super Bowl has never been more doable. I mean, this team hasn't they've scored fewer than 30 points only one time since mid-October. This Buffalo team can smell the Super Bowl, and I think this is the year that they get to it.
And Kyle, at number 2, I am going Lions, which already tells you guys who we each have at number 1. The Lions, dominant team. Again, we've talked about it. The Lions are inevitable ever since they lost in the NFC Championship last year. They have been on they've had an amazing season with all of their players. They lost David Montgomery for a little bit. They struggled through defensive injuries, which are probably just as long as the Packers right now, and yet they're still 15-win team. Like, they are still dominating teams and they are killing it. They obviously got the bye, so they didn't play last week, but even before that in week 18, they dominated the Vikings, both offensively and defensively. And to do that the way they have this season with as many injuries and whatever, you got guys coming back. They're going to be just as good. I've already got them beating the Commanders, obviously, in this divisional round. But the Lions are so damn good, man. It's just top to bottom. This roster's awesome. Obviously, aside from the injuries on the defensive side, but I've got them at number 2. Kyle? We've got the opposite of number 1.
Yeah, I'm going Lions at 1. I mean, if there's one thing I've learned this season, it's that the number 1 seed is so important. Yeah. I mean, it is like you don't play the wild card round, so you avoid any tough matchups. And then when you do play your first game, it's like you play the Commanders and you play the Texans. It's like you play the worst team. You really do, by securing the 1 seed, you almost just get a path to the NFC Championship or AFC Championship game. And that's going to be the case for the Chiefs and the Lions this year. The biggest difference between the Lions and Chiefs is when it comes to what lies ahead. Kansas City is going to have to beat one of those 2 MVP candidates to get to the game, assuming that they take care of business against the Texans. Home field advantage, though, in better quarterback play, give Dan Campbell's squad, I think, the best chance to make it to the Super Bowl over any team. I mean, the Lions are able to have every playoff game run through Detroit, and there's nobody that I feel like can play with Detroit. And as much as you like the Eagles or whoever, it's just the Lions. It's their year, and they know it. The players know it. The coaches know it. The fans know it. And there's really nothing anybody can do about it. And it's not just their year to get to the Super Bowl. It's their year to bring a big trophy back home to a city. And there was a comment earlier today by Crafty, and he was right. He said in his comment, I believe it was Nick, he said the Lions could wash away decades of failure in 1 year. And that's exactly what is going to happen. Lions and Bills 1 and 2. Looks like you and me have the same Super Bowl.
Yeah. Bills for me at number 1. And real quick, shout out Lil Lee. Hope that flight tomorrow is great. Thanks for stopping by, Lil Lee. For me,
safe
Bills,
flight.
Big flight,
safe flight. You will you'll land just in time for playoff football.
That's right, Lil Lee. Have fun on that. Have fun in Montana. Bills for me, man. I just Josh Allen. God, you talked about it. That pass, just when there doesn't seem to be anything there, it's Josh Allen making a fucking play, and he was able to do that. And Josh Allen, to me, it just seems like he's one of those quarterbacks that can make a lot of receivers, a lot of players around him really good. Like, he is starting to kind of be like a Mahomes, a Peyton Manning, a Tom Brady, that type of quarterback where, yes, I can do it, but I can also get you in the position and get you in the mindset of being a productive guy. That's why I got the Bills at number one. Me and you got the AFC and the NFC at number one here, and that's probably gonna be the Super Bowl matchup. Obviously, we're gonna go through the playoffs, but yeah, Kyle and I were pretty much flip flopped on every single pick. And I think after you picked the Ravens at 4, I was like, oh yeah, Eagles, Bills, Lions. I think he's going Eagles, Bills, Lions, and you did.
Yeah, and the Eagles could easily have been my number 2 team. It's just I didn't want to put a team that's going to go to the Super Bowl behind a team that is going to lose and not go to the Super Bowl. So that's why I did it. But if there were no conferences, I would probably have the Eagles ahead of the Bills. But I am rooting for the Bills. They're my team that I'm cheering for. I want nothing more than Von Miller to win a 3rd Super Bowl. First player to win 3 Super Bowls with 3 teams would be Von Miller.
Wow.
So I want it for Von. I want it for Von because I do think he would come to Denver and finish his career with us on a team-friendly deal. All the first ballot Hall of Famer, all the accolades would be there, 3 Super Bowl rings, and then he would just bask in the glory for a couple years where he belongs back home.
Kyle literally likes the Bills for selfish interests. That's it. That is literally it.
I want to see Josh Allen win a ring too. I just don't like that when you talk about Josh Allen that there's still people on the internet that are like, what has he done because I said like he's a future Hall of Famer, and people are like, what has he done to be a Hall of Famer? And I'm just like, I'm just ready for that to be put to bed. I'm like, Peyton didn't win a Super Bowl till he was in his 30s. So like, I just feel like that's it's like, do you even watch him play? Like,
do you watch football or do you know ball? Or
I get it. Like, he needs to win a Super Bowl, but there's a big difference between the way Josh Allen plays in the playoffs and Lamar Jackson plays in the playoffs. Like, they 100%. Incorporated new rules because of how good Josh Allen played in over the overtime game with Kansas City. I mean, Lamar's never had a playoff game like Josh Allen. Josh Allen has been one, just like, he's got 100 quarterback rating in the playoffs. He's got like 22 touchdowns to like 4 picks. If it weren't for Kansas City being the best dynasty of all time, you're talking about a Buffalo team that would probably have been to 3 or 4 Super Bowls by now.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, they prevented them from a lot. So yeah, I agree.
Every one.
Yeah, every single one. Well, guys, that was
top 5, no debating. Top 5.
Kyle. I think it's time for the motherfucker.
For the motherfucker.
For the motherfucker.
For the motherfucker. For all of you that don't have anything to cheer for, your team is out of it, which is 24 of us. I'm going to give you the top 10 free agent signings of 2024 to remind you of how important free agents are. I mean, it's a serious part of getting to the Super Bowl. So let me just remind you this last year who the top 10 free agent signings were. At number 1, it's Saquon Barkley, who signed a 3-year, $37 million deal. He's gonna win probably Offensive Player of the Year if I had to guess. Pro Bowl, all of that. The Giants let him walk, and the Eagles were like, sure. I mean, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry actually signed a 2-year deal.
Oh, I thought it was a 1-year deal. Okay.
2-year, $16 million deal. Aged perfect. Sam Darnold at 3. Yeah, it didn't end the way people wanted it to, but you won 14 games with the guy. At number 4, Xavier McKinney, the Packers safety, 4-year, $67 million. He earned first-team All-Pro honors in the process. Jeff Hafley, the Green Bay defense, was a takeaway machine, and he was the leader of it. Andrew Van Ginkel for the Vikings, a 2-year, $20 million deal. Man, that worked out. The guy has been a defensive nightmare for opposing offenses. The linebacker for the Eagles, Zach Bond, who has just mastered the linebacker position. They had, Fred Warner was on ESPN or NFL right before the playoffs on it was Sunday, and he was breaking down Zach Bond's film. And if Fred Warner likes you, you're the real deal.
Yeah.
Number 7, Josh Jacobs, Jammerheimer Schmidt. I mean, the guy's been a workhorse.
Cut him off.
The guy's been a workhorse all season long. 1,329 yards, 15 touchdowns. Most balanced offense was the Packers with the running and passing, like a 50-50 split. The Raiders let him walk, and this was the offseason of, hey, maybe you should pay these guys when they're special. Number 8, Danielle Hunter for the Texans. The Texans adding an alpha dog competitor to the edge with a pass rush, because you already got Will Anderson Jr. there, has been a good move. I mean, the Texans now have had 12 sacks with Hunter, and he is the leader with those 12 sacks. So the Texans, the vision they had when they brought him in has actually come to fruition.
Yep.
Number 9, Zach Ertz, 1 year, $3 million. You really can't underestimate the impact Zach Ertz has had on Jaden Daniels. He's definitely become Jaden Daniels' security blanket. That's the difference, I guess, between, I mean, even Caleb, Bo. I don't know about like Cole Kmet, but at least the Broncos never had a security blanket tight end for Bo. I mean, we have no good tight end. And that is really important for a young rookie quarterback. And hats off to the Commanders for noticing it and bringing in somebody like Zach Ertz, because there's just been so many times where he's made clutch catches in the red zone or third down extending drives. You need a good tight end, and they got one. And then Robert Hunt, the right guard for the Panthers, who signed a 5-year, $100 million deal. They wanted to upgrade the offensive line to protect Bryce Young in the pocket, and also Chuba Hubbard would be able to pound the rock between the tackles. He has been everything they wanted him to be, and the Panthers are now building the roster. And anytime you're building a roster, you got to build it from the inside out. The Panthers are at least doing it the right way. But those are 10 people that have really impacted the teams that they were on this year, and none of them are on 1-year deals. So these are,
it's important,
besides Zach Ertz, and he'll get re-signed. But I mean, it's not just like you're getting a guy for a year. Zach Bond was on a 1-year deal as well. But you know, for some of these guys, you're looking at 4-year deals, and that is potentially the last time that they'll be available like that. I mean, Saquon Barkley, I don't see him playing with 3 teams. Like, he's going to be an Eagle now until it's over. Same with Derrick Henry, and so many others. So this year, there's a lot of big name free agents. If your team can get one of them, they might make this list next year.
Are you listening, Ryan Poles and the Bears? Yeah, they make a fucking big difference. So free agency equals productivity. So awesome job, Kyle, with all top 10. Thank you guys so much for being here. Big shout out to Lil E, KC, Crafty, Richard E. I'm just trying to make them all rhyme. We also had Darlene and, of course, Nick and Daniel at the beginning. Huge shout out to you guys. If you haven't already, please hit a like on this stream, we would really appreciate it. And, if you haven't also, hit that subscribe button, become a member of the Only Football Fam, $2.99 a month. And of course, share it. Tell your friends about it. Tell your family about it. Tell people on the street that are random. And if you've never seen, they're all NPCs anyway. You are the main character. They're all non-playable characters. They run into walls and keep walking. They're NPCs. Just let them know about the Only Football Podcast. We would appreciate, and go follow us on X at and now Rick and at NFL with Kyle. Go follow the Only Football Podcast at Only Football Pod. And Kyle, always a good time, brother.
Always a good time.